Chosen one. Do you ever feel like the smarter you become, the lonelier it gets? Like every time you speak truth, the room goes quiet. Not because you're wrong, but because your presence exposes what others pretend not to see. You've learned to carry your wisdom with grace, but deep down, you've noticed something. Your refusal to dumb yourself down just to fit in is offending people. They call you distant, arrogant, or too deep, but what they really mean is, you make them feel small when you refuse to shrink. You've outgrown shallow talk, fake smiles, and empty gatherings. You crave souls that remind you of Allah, not egos that compete for attention. And that, chosen one, is why you've been misunderstood. Because in a world where everyone is trying to blend in, you dared to evolve. You were never meant to lower your frequency just to be accepted. You were meant to rise, even if that rise isolates you. Your silence now carries more power than their loud opinions. Your depth now disturbs their comfort zones. And that's not a curse, that's your calling. Because the moment you stop pretending to be less, you stepped fully into the version of yourself Allah always saw in you. So today, let's uncover 7 powerful lessons on why your refusal to dumb yourself down is making people uncomfortable, and why that's one of the greatest signs that Allah has set you apart for something far greater. Chosen one. Have you noticed how your silence makes people uneasy? In a world addicted to noise, gossip, and constant chatter, your calm feels like a storm they can't predict. You don't talk just to fill the air. You speak when it matters, and that alone unsettles those who depend on noise to feel alive. Your silence carries weight because it's not empty. It's filled with remembrance, reflection, and divine observation. You see, when Allah refines a soul, He first teaches it restraint. He trains your tongue to move only when your heart is aligned with truth. That's why your quietness isn't weakness. It's power disguised as peace. People who live for attention feel small in your presence because your silence doesn't feed their ego. You don't play along with their gossip, you don't compete for validation, and you don't need to prove you're intelligent. Your energy already speaks louder than words ever could. They interpret your peace as pride, your stillness as arrogance, but that's only because they can't comprehend the depth that silence holds when it's anchored in Allah. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, "Whoever believes in Allah in the last day should speak good or remain silent." Bukhari and Muslim. Your silence is not just an absence of speech. It's a statement of discipline, a mark of maturity, and a reflection of your spiritual elevation. Those who live in heedlessness can't stand to be around that kind of purity. Because when you say nothing, they start hearing everything their conscience has been trying to tell them. Your silence becomes a mirror. It exposes their insecurity, their lack of peace, and their dependence on chaos. And that's why they try to provoke you. They want you to break character, to react, to descend into their level. But you don't. You stay composed, and that calmness burns louder than any insult. You're learning what many never will. Sometimes silence is the sharpest response. It doesn't need to scream truth, it embodies it. Remember, chosen one, even the Prophet, peace be upon him, was known for his silence. His quiet presence brought both comfort and discomfort, depending on the heart standing before him. For the righteous, his silence was peace. For the arrogant, it was pressure. That's how divine light works. It reveals, it exposes, it purifies. So don't ever feel guilty for being quiet in a loud world. Your silence is not emptiness, it's alignment. It's how Allah guards your energy from being wasted on the ungrateful. The less you speak, the more you hear Him. The less you explain, the more He defends you. And the more you sit in silence, the more your soul begins to echo the sound of certainty, the kind that no noise can interrupt. Chosen one. One of the hardest truths you'll come to realize is that your wisdom is not always welcomed, not because it's wrong, but because it confronts the comfort of the ignorant. You've noticed it. When you speak with insight, when your words pierce through falsehood, people flinch. Not because you harm them, but because your truth threatens the lies they've built their lives upon. Your presence alone disrupts illusions. You don't have to expose anyone. Your very awareness does it. And that's why people get defensive around you. They sense that you see what they're trying so hard to hide. You are a mirror that reflects what others refuse to face. Your clarity reveals confusion. Your insight exposes deceit. The more Allah opens your eyes, the harder it becomes to engage in meaningless talk or blind obedience to cultural ignorance. Remember, knowledge in Islam is not just about information, it's about illumination. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, when Allah intends good for someone, He gives them understanding of the religion. Bukhari and Muslim. So when Allah gives you understanding, He is choosing you to see through the veils others are content to live behind. That vision comes with weight, because the more you see, the more you'll stand out among those who don't want to. Your wisdom unsettles people who benefit from confusion. The moment you start speaking from a place of divine clarity, their manipulations lose power. They can't twist truth when someone in the room knows its pure form. And that's why they try to silence you. Not because your words are false, but because your truth robs them of control. Just as Pharaoh feared Moses, peace be upon him, not because of his sword, but because of his message, many today fear you not for your strength, but for your insight. You hold spiritual vision in an age of blindness, and that alone makes you dangerous to those who thrive on deceit. They'll call you arrogant for refusing to follow ignorance. They'll label your discernment as pride because they mistake confidence in truth for self-importance. But you are not proud. You are aware. You simply refuse to return to darkness after Allah has shown you light. You don't debate to prove yourself. You speak to awaken others. You don't correct to dominate. You correct to align with what's right. That's the mark of those Allah loves. They defend truth even when it costs them relationships. Because the chosen ones would rather stand alone in clarity than belong to a crowd that celebrates ignorance. So when people become uneasy around your wisdom, understand it's not personal, it's spiritual. Light doesn't ask permission to shine. Truth doesn't seek approval to be spoken. You were given divine insight to protect, not to please. And sometimes the protection comes through separation. Allah removes you from those who resent your clarity because He knows they'll try to dim it. Don't water down your wisdom to make the blind comfortable. You were sent to awaken, not to entertain. Let them resist you, for one day when their illusions collapse, they'll remember the one who tried to warn them with truth. Chosen one, wisdom is not meant to make you popular. It's meant to make you prepared. Every truth you've learned, every revelation that has come to your heart, is a sign that Allah is teaching you to see through the lies of this dunya. Your wisdom is His mercy, but for the arrogant, it will always feel like judgment. Don't silence yourself to protect their comfort. Speak when guided, stay silent when moved, but never shrink to fit into ignorance again, because Allah raised you through knowledge, and to return to blindness would be to betray the light He gave you. Chosen one, you've probably felt it, that quiet awkwardness when you're surrounded by people talking endlessly, yet you feel completely detached. Their laughter sounds hollow, their topics feel heavy with emptiness, and your soul aches in rooms that once felt familiar. You're not bored, you've outgrown the frequency. Once upon a time, you could engage in small talk, gossip, or meaningless debates. But now, every fiber of your being craves depth. You want to talk about Allah, purpose, destiny, healing, the unseen, the lessons behind pain. But most conversations around you revolve around ego, money, people, and worldly desires. You no longer fit in because your spirit has been reprogrammed. Allah purified your interests, refined your speech, and align your heart with higher things. What they find entertaining now drains you, not because you think you're better, but because your soul simply no longer recognizes that vibration as home. When Allah begins elevating a person, He first changes their appetite, not just for food, but for company. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, "A person is upon the religion of his close friend, so let one of you look at whom he befriends." Tirmidhi. That's why, chosen one, you can't force yourself to enjoy what no longer feeds your spirit. Those old circles that used to make you laugh now make you restless. You find yourself going quiet while others argue. You smile politely while your mind wanders toward dhikr. It's not pride, it's purification. Your silence in those moments is not rejection of people, it's protection of peace. Allah is detoxing you from superficiality so that your heart becomes a vessel of remembrance. And when that happens, you'll start to notice that your conversations become fewer, but far more meaningful. They'll say you've changed, and they're right. You've changed from chasing noise to chasing Noor. You've changed from reacting to reflecting, from arguing to observing, from pleasing people to pleasing Allah. Those who live in distraction will always misinterpret that transformation. They'll say you become boring, too serious, or antisocial. But what they really mean is, you're no longer available for ignorance. And that's okay, because Allah never removes people from your life without sending replacements that match your new level. If some left your circle, it's because they can't breathe the air of your elevation. You were never meant to stay in conversations that corrupt your spirit. Even the Prophet, peace be upon him, used to leave gatherings where Allah's name was absent. Because when you remember Allah less, the heart hardens. And when you remember Him more, the heart softens. You're being drawn toward gatherings where truth flows like light, where the talk heals, not harms, where every word leads back to purpose. That's why your discomfort in certain circles is not a flaw. It's a sign that your heart has become more sensitive to what displeases Allah. You're not losing people. You're losing distraction. So don't force yourself to fit into rooms you've outgrown. When your soul evolves, your conversations must evolve too. You're not antisocial. You're divinely selective. You crave souls that remind you of Allah, not tongues that drown you in heedlessness. You no longer belong to idle talk. You belong to remembrance. And the fewer people you find who speak your language, the clearer it becomes. Allah didn't design you to blend in. He designed you to stand out. Chosen one, this stage of isolation is temporary, but necessary. Allah is protecting your speech because He's preparing your voice. One day you'll speak and your words will awaken hearts, not because they're loud, but because they're rooted in sincerity. But for now, He's teaching you silence, discernment, and patience. The three qualities that separate the wise from the worldly. So if you feel you no longer fit into their conversations, take it as a divine compliment. You're not being excluded, you're being refined. Allah is not cutting your connections. He's cleansing them. He's building a new circle around you, one that speaks the language of light. Chosen one. When Allah begins to elevate you, not everyone around you will celebrate that rise. In fact, many will resent it. The people who once laughed with you, supported you, or called you one of them will suddenly treat you like a stranger. Not because you wronged them, but because your growth makes them face what they've refused to change. Your light exposes their stagnation. Your peace disrupts their chaos. Your self-control embarrasses their impulsiveness. And instead of asking, "How can I grow too?" they whisper, "Who do you think you are?" They take your evolution as rejection because they confuse your focus with arrogance, your distance with pride, and your silence with superiority. But what they don't realize is that your growth isn't about them. It's about obedience. You didn't walk away out of anger. You walked away out of alignment. When Allah purifies a soul, He removes it from old patterns, and sometimes those patterns wear familiar faces. It's not easy. You remember the days you laughed with them, shared pain with them, felt at home with them. But as Allah began transforming you, something inside shifted. You stopped chasing temporary highs. You stopped wasting time in meaningless talk. You stopped tolerating disrespect disguised as jokes. You began guarding your energy, your prayers, and your peace. And that discipline offended those who still live carelessly. Just as Prophet Yusuf, peace be upon him, was envied by his own brothers for the favor Allah placed upon him, you too will face the pain of being envied by those who once claimed to love you. They can't accept that you've grown because your very existence reminds them of the choices they never made. They'll try to pull you back to what you've outgrown, not because they want to help you, but because your transformation threatens their comfort zone. They'll mock your spirituality, roll their eyes at your seriousness, and gossip about how different you've become. But chosen one, understand this: your growth isn't rejection, it's revelation. It's Allah revealing who was truly attached to your soul and who was only attached to your old self. Growth has a way of clearing the room, not because you're better, but because not everyone has the courage to walk the same narrow path you've chosen. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, "Islam began as something strange, and it will return to being strange. So blessed are the strangers." Muslim, you're one of those blessed strangers now, misunderstood on earth, but recognized in the heavens. Remember this: when you rise in faith, you will always trigger those who are asleep in heedlessness. Your new peace exposes their restlessness. Your humility makes their pride louder. Your obedience makes their rebellion more obvious. And instead of changing, they'll attack the mirror. But don't let that discourage you. You are not responsible for their perception, only your intention. The ones meant to walk with you will grow with you. The rest will fade naturally. You don't owe anyone an apology for healing. You don't owe anyone an explanation for evolving. Those who truly love you will adjust. Those who love comfort will accuse you. So don't dim your light just to make the unchanged feel secure. You've paid too high a price in tears, trials, and solitude to go back now. Let them misunderstand your growth. Allah understands it. Let them call you distant. Allah calls you devoted. You're not leaving people behind. You're walking toward who you were always meant to be. Every step away from who you were is a step closer to who Allah wants you to become. And the loneliness you feel in this process is not rejection, it's transformation. Allah isolates you before He elevates you, and He purifies you before He presents you. Chosen one, your growth may have cost you the crowd, but it gained you clarity. It may have separated you from some people, but it connected you to Allah. Never mistake their discomfort for your wrongdoing. You didn't reject them, you just refused to reject your purpose. And when the dust settles, they'll realize what you were doing all along, protecting the purity Allah entrusted you with. You weren't changing against them, you were changing for Him. Chosen one. One of the most painful awakenings on your divine journey is realizing that most people don't actually want truth. They just want to be entertained. They crave stimulation, not transformation. They want to feel something, not face something. And when your presence stops feeding their need for distraction, they grow distant. You were once the one who could make people laugh, who could join their debates, who could blend in easily. But now the moment you speak from your soul instead of your ego, they lose interest. Because truth doesn't amuse the heedless, it awakens them. And awakening is uncomfortable. You're not hard to understand. You're just speaking a language they've forgotten, the language of sincerity, reflection, and remembrance of Allah. The truth is, chosen one, You were never meant to perform for the world's approval. You were meant to be a mirror of divine wisdom. You are not here to entertain their curiosity. You are here to provoke their consciousness. Allah has given your words a certain weight, a vibration that carries through hearts. And that power doesn't come from eloquence, it comes from purity. People who live in distraction feel uneasy when you speak because your words dismantle their illusions. You remind them of accountability, of humility, of the reality that this life is temporary. And since most people are intoxicated by dunya, your sobriety irritates their intoxication. They'll call you too deep, too serious, too sensitive. But those are the names the blind give to those who can see. Remember, even the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was mocked by his people. They said he told tales of the ancients. They laughed when he recited verses of warning. They asked for miracles to be entertained, but they refused to accept the miracle of the Quran. What they wanted was amusement, not admonition. And yet he stayed steadfast because his mission was never to entertain, it was to enlighten. He didn't change his message to suit their comfort. He spoke truth because Allah commanded it. You follow that same prophetic path when you choose truth over trends, purpose over popularity, sincerity over applause. The world has enough entertainers. What it needs are awakeners. Your gift isn't in making people laugh, it's in making them think. You weren't sent to be liked, you were sent to be light. When you open your mouth, hearts either soften or resist, but they never remain neutral. That's how you know you're walking in divine purpose. Your presence provokes movement in other souls. It either brings peace to the humble or irritation to the arrogant. But don't let that discourage you. The truth was never meant to please everyone. As long as Allah is pleased, the reactions of people are irrelevant. Chosen one, you carry a wisdom that carries weight. It's not loud, it's not flashy, but it penetrates hearts because it's born from pain and purified through patience. You've walked through enough darkness to understand that light isn't entertainment, it's survival. And so when you speak, your words don't tickle ears, they heal wounds. They don't just sound good, they call the soul back home. That's why your energy doesn't attract crowds. It attracts seekers. You're not meant for mass approval. You're meant for divine assignment. The few who are ready will find you, and the rest will flee because your truth demands transformation. So never apologize for being too serious. You weren't created to distract a dying world. You were created to awaken it. You don't exist to feed the egos of others. You exist to feed their souls, even if that means walking alone, even if that means being misunderstood. Because while the entertainers of this world receive applause now, the enlighteners will receive eternal reward later. Remember, the Prophet, peace be upon him, said, "The scholars are the inheritors of the prophets." Abu Dawood. That includes everyone who carries truth with sincerity. You, chosen one, are among them, not because of your titles, but because of your heart. Your mission isn't to make people smile, it's to make them see. You are not a performer on the stage of dunya. You are a messenger of remembrance in a world that is forgotten. Let your light disturb. Let your truth offend. Let your silence speak louder than their laughter. Because you were not sent to entertain the sleeping. You were sent to awaken the souls Allah is still calling home. Chosen one, understand this deeply. The isolation you feel is not rejection, it's refinement. Allah did not pull you away from people to punish you. He pulled you away to prepare you. There's a sacred silence that Allah places around His chosen servants before He elevates them. In that silence, He strips you of distractions, exposes your attachments, and teaches you to depend on Him alone. You may look around and see everyone living their lives, laughing, socializing, posting, connecting, while you're in solitude wondering why you no longer belong. But what if I told you that your isolation is a divine classroom, a space where Allah Himself is teaching you lessons the crowd could never understand? You see, when Allah loves someone, He doesn't let them blend in. He separates them to sanctify their soul. He makes their spirit too sensitive for nonsense, too awake for gossip, too wise for games. That's why your silence feels heavy, because heaven is speaking in it. The Prophet Yusuf, peace be upon him, was isolated in a prison before he was placed in a palace. Musa, peace be upon him, was isolated in the desert before he was sent to speak to Pharaoh. Even the beloved Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was isolated in the cave of Hira before he received revelation. In every story of divine greatness, there's a moment of divine isolation, a quiet season where Allah rewrites your identity away from the eyes of men. So if you feel disconnected right now, if people have walked out, if the world feels far away, don't panic. You're in divine construction. Allah is building something sacred inside you, something that can't be built in public. He's cutting off people who can't go where He's taking you. He's quieting the noise so you can hear His voice. Your loneliness is not proof that you're forgotten. It's proof that you're chosen. Because Allah doesn't isolate random souls. He isolates those He intends to purify, protect, and promote. You've been set apart not because you're unworthy of company, but because you're too valuable to be contaminated by distraction. So sit with your silence, chosen one. Don't rush to fill it. Don't chase validation. Let Allah finish His work in you. When He brings you back into the world, your presence will carry a power that only solitude could birth. Wisdom sharpened by silence, faith strengthened by waiting, and a heart that beats only for Him. Chosen one, listen closely. In a world built on imitation, your authenticity is not just rare, it's sacred. Your truthfulness, your refusal to fake, your consistency with who you are, that's what shields you from destruction. The moment you stopped wearing masks to please people, you became spiritually bulletproof. Because authenticity is not just about being yourself. It's about being the self Allah created you to be, not the version society demanded. The fake world hates that. They want you predictable, diluted, and easy to manipulate. But when you walk in your truth, when you say no to what offends your soul, when you refuse to join the circus of pretenders, you expose their falsehood without saying a word. Your light makes their shadows uncomfortable. Your peace irritates their chaos. And your presence becomes a reminder that some still serve Allah without compromise. You see, your authenticity didn't come cheap. It was forged through heartbreaks, betrayals, and seasons where being honest cost you everything. Friends, opportunities, even peace. But what you didn't lose in those moments was yourself. And that's what matters to Allah. Because while others sold their principles to gain approval, you chose to remain real even when it made you lonely. That's why Allah defends you in ways you don't see. When people lie about you, He lets their lies crumble under truth. When they mock you for being different, He exposes their emptiness through your stability. Your refusal to fake is what keeps divine protection around you. Because Allah loves those who remain true to their fitrah, their pure original nature. Remember the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. His truthfulness was his greatest shield. They called him Al-Amin, the trustworthy, even before revelation. When he spoke truth, people either bowed in humility or burned in jealousy. His authenticity separated him from every false leader and hypocrite, and the same divine law applies to you. The more authentic you become, the fewer people will stand with you, but the stronger your protection will grow, because Allah guards those who guard their truth. Every time you choose sincerity over popularity, Allah raises your rank in the unseen. Every time you refuse to bend for approval, angels stand beside you in silent applause. The world will always try to trick you into abandoning your essence. They'll tell you to tone it down, fit in, don't make people uncomfortable, but you were never created to blend. You were created to shine. The Quran says, "And do not mix the truth with falsehood or conceal the truth while you know it." 242. That's your divine command. Never compromise your reality just to be accepted. Because the moment you hide your light to make others feel comfortable in their darkness, you lose the very protection Allah gave you. Your authenticity is your armor. It keeps you aligned with divine will, it attracts pure souls to you, and it exposes evil before it can reach you. So walk in your truth, chosen one. Let your honesty offend those addicted to lies. Let your peace unsettle the chaotic. Let your light disturb the darkness. You don't need to prove anything. Your existence as a truthful servant of Allah is the proof. The people who left couldn't handle realness. They were addicted to illusions. But you're learning to live without masks, without fear, without bending. That's why your path feels lonely, but it's also why you keep surviving storms others couldn't. Because what's built on truth cannot be destroyed. Your authenticity doesn't just protect you, it elevates you, refines you, and connects you directly to Allah, the source of all truth. So never apologize for being genuine. Never water yourself down to be liked. Never dim your light to make others comfortable in their darkness. Keep being exactly who Allah designed you to be, unfiltered, faithful, and free. Because your authenticity is not a weakness. It's your divine protection, your spiritual armor, and your eternal mark of distinction among the chosen ones. Chosen one, now you see it, don't you? You were never difficult. You were different. You were never arrogant. You were awake. The world wanted you to shrink so they could feel taller, to mute your light so their shadows could remain unseen. But you refused. You stood tall in your truth. You spoke only when guided. You walked alone when necessary. And that's exactly why Allah continues to elevate you when no one else understands how. Every rejection, every cold stare, every room that grew silent when you entered was divine confirmation that you were not built for the crowd. You were built for purpose. So keep walking in that divine confidence. You don't need their validation when you have Allah's approval. You don't need to explain your peace when He knows your pain. The truth is, your silence, your wisdom, your authenticity, your refusal to compromise, it all serves one purpose: to show the world that Allah still raises people who cannot be corrupted. You are one of them, the misunderstood, the misjudged, the mighty in patience. You are the proof that light still wins in the age of darkness. So wear your difference like a crown, not a curse. Let your peace speak louder than their noise. Keep rising even when they whisper, because the more they talk, the more Allah will reveal that what they called arrogance was actually divine alignment. And remember this, when Allah chooses to protect your truth, He will expose every lie, not through your words, but through your walk. This is wisdom of the prophets. And if this message touched your soul, then you already know. You were never meant to blend in. You were meant to be remembered.